Kuna kaunti ingine ambao wanatumia 600 million ku-oversee ama ku-supervise kulingana na vile Senator or Speaker wa Senate amesema. You use 600 million to oversight 800 million. Now, does that make sense? So jana tukiwa pamoja na viongozi wenzangu tulikubaliana ya kwamba there is time for us to have a national conference on this issue, for us to be able to come up with clear guidelines, what policy, how do we tackle this monster? Because if we don't, we are not really doing justice to the people of this country. So together with my co-chair of the summit, tutapanga na tutaalika watu kutoka sekta zote, tuje tujadiliane na tujue vile tutatekeleza na tutarekebisha mambo haya, ndio iwe pesa zile nyingi zinaenda kwa wananchi, lakini sio kwa mifuko ya wachache.
When somebody is indicted, be it a county leader or a national leader, when they are indicted of a serious charge of corruption, let them step aside from their office while that investigation takes place. Let them not be there to speak to their colleagues or mess around with the evidence. Let them be absent. And if they are found innocent, let them be restored with honor and full pay. But if they are found guilty, they and all of us who may be found guilty of such offences must face the consequences.
Taking stock at the 6th Annual Devolution Conference that is being held in Kirinyaga County, with governors taking stock of devolution 6 years down the line. So in a nutshell, governors have complained that the role of counties in the implementation of President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda remains unclear. They also raised concerns about the National Treasury's delay in releasing funds, a circumstance which they say hampers development. The county bosses called for more money for health in order for universal health coverage to be realized. Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa termed corruption and ballooning wage bills as the main challenges. Deputy President William Ruto was at that conference as well, and he highlighted counties' financial problems and asked them to increase their revenue streams to meet the shortfall and end their over-reliance on Treasury. President Uhuru Kenyatta, who opened the conference, wants investigative agencies given room to do their work in the war on corruption, which he notes robs the public of resources it is in dire need of. He says the war targets neither individuals nor communities. So in a nutshell, that is what happened today at the Devolution Conference in the county of Kirinyaga. We're taking stock 6 years down the line. Was it a good idea? What are the challenges? What are the success stories? How can Kenya make devolution work and indeed make it better? That is a conversation we're having this evening on The Big Story. Thank you for joining us. I'm Linda Ogutu. Let's now bring in the lead reporter in this show, Sophia Wanuna. Sophia, if you can hear me, good evening. So we're having a conversation about devolution, and one of the key issues that everyone seems to be pointing at is the issue of corruption. A visibly agitated president just basically saying we need to sort out corruption once and for all. Murimi Mwangi, who was in Kirinyaga, also got the chance to speak to the chair of the Governor's Council, Wycliffe Oparanya, and he also alluded to the same fact. Corruption is the one big headache that devolution indeed has to deal with.
Indeed, Linda, good evening. So yes, corruption is that big issue that was highlighted today, whether it's the president or the other leaders that we so speak. But remember, this has been national dialogue dominating that space over the last couple of months because of what has been going on, what analysts have perceived to be a re-energized fight against graft. But outside of that, a very important issue were the same issues we keep hearing in each devolution conference. This being the 6th, Linda, we have covered previous devolution conferences. And I was having a conversation with a governance expert a little bit earlier and was trying to figure out to what end and what purpose do these meetings serve? Because on one hand, the leaders and stakeholders that converge have platforms where they can engage on these issues and be able to perhaps seek out solutions. But what we keep seeing each devolution conference is pretty much much the same problems around the wage bill that's ballooning, recurrent expenditure. In fact, today, the president highlighted that, saying 52% is going to salaries, then you have 30% going to recurrent expenditure. So there's only 20% for the rest of the country to look at in as far as development is concerned. So all these issues, corruption, the wage ballooning question, the issue of money, not enough of it going down to the counties, a slow release of these funds to the counties, have been there. So again, to that question is where I want to start with my guest this evening, Honorable Beatrice Elachi. And thank you for making time for the big story. What is the point of this conference? As I've mentioned, we see the leaders come out, tell us the same issues year in, year out. Can it be done differently to ensure there is progress, so that when they come from one conference to the other, perhaps they're reporting on last year these were the issues, we've perhaps made this progress, we're in a different space, as opposed to it almost being a lamentation conference?
Well, thank you very much. First, we need to appreciate that, yes, we've seen and we've realized devolution is one component that can really, really transform a country if well organized, well ensured that the resources you're given goes exactly to what the services were meant to be. And I think, as you say, yeah, we have serious questions we need to ask ourselves as a country, especially when you find a country where now Kenyans are starting to be alert and they're asking themselves, is it worth? Yes, it's worth, but I'm hoping the 7th devolution will be a devolution where we'll have a scorecard in every county, where you sit down now with your people and say, for the last 7 years, we've been able to do 1, 2, 3. The challenges we face are this. The biggest challenge we face in the counties today is revenue. Revenue collection has gone down. It's even worse than the revenue that the county councils used to collect. Then we need to pause and ask ourselves, why? Where is the money that the county councils used to collect? And today we don't have yet. We have more better streams of collecting revenue than that time. Two, we need to ask ourselves. And as we go, for example, when we are looking at the issues that we are thinking this can go for a referendum and all, we need to ask ourselves, do we need to have private institutions collecting for counties' revenue, or we go back to KRA? KRA collects the revenue. It ensures that revenue is put into the account of that county, and therefore you are able now to follow up, and also KRA will be able to follow up with the PIN numbers, all these things that we have loopholes where people now use that for graft. And that way, you will find yourselves now enhanced more better in collecting your revenue. Because today, if the national government just stops and says, we are not giving counties money, I am thinking roughly 28 to 29 counties will not be able to move. So does it mean the national government is struggling collecting revenue? As it gives you this revenue, it all goes to current expenditure. Then we need to ask ourselves, can we now clarify what is current expenditure and what's development? Is development buying cars? Is, because we really need to redefine that whole process, so that the control of budget also, we have institutions, Sophia, and we are wondering, even with these institutions, the president is still alone talking about corruption, meaning the institutions have failed the president. You are an institution. I'll give you an example of Nairobi. Nairobi, right now, for example, we have a board of 2 members. The minority and the political, and the majority. They are able to transact. What is the institution that is supposed to monitor that doing? You can't transact without a board that is substantive with quorum. And those are some of the things when the president is talking about corruption, is where are these why do we have the institution of control of budget? Is this just to release the money and not looking at what is going? And I'm not saying she has done wrong. No, she has done so well.
Yes.
But we need to sit down and ask ourselves as Kenyans, with all these many institutions, are we really getting it right the way the president is every day talking about it?
Yeah.
Yes.
You talk about revenue. It's one thing to collect the money, but is that the biggest problem? Because first, for the counties, they're limited in as far as what they can collect. At the end of the day, a lot of that collection of resources tax is at the national level. Land rates, in terms of land rates, is what most counties will argue is the power they have. But isn't the ballooning the wage bill, that too much workforce? Seriously.
Sophie, the national government, we made sure we reduced their revenues. We made sure. We left all the local revenue, all. Meaning, if you're in the county of Nairobi, anything that belongs to Nairobi remained that Nairobi has to collect, for example, or any other county.
But most of them don't have those many avenues. Nairobi, for instance, will have a lot of avenues to do that. But as far as what they can actually collect in some of these far-flung counties, is it significant?
Now, if the county councils survived and government never used to give them money, and they would pay even salaries, that's why I'm saying we need to ask ourselves, fine, you're not able to collect, but there's also a more better enhanced way that you were given, and you were the Constitution gave you a more power to be able to look at more revenues to collect. So we need to ask ourselves, if the county councils collected and paid salaries, what is wrong with us? Yet, we collect what they used to collect, and we are able to get now a shareable revenue from the national government.
Isn't it because you still have structures from that local administration, and then you have the devolved governments with their own structures, so that it's more personnel than you had at the time? But
you know, at the same time, the biggest disadvantage the counties did to themselves was to agree in the first meetings of the governors that we want all the functions. Yet the Constitution had envisaged that if a county is able to take care of function 1, 2, 3, you go, you reason with the national government and pick the functions you are able to work around with. But what did they do? They said, no, devolve all. I was in the Senate. They told us, no, bring all functions. We need them all. They were looking at the resources at the national government. None of them were trying to imagine that I can collect revenue and deal with my functions. They felt the more functions you give me, the more money comes. But you see now, what has happened also, some of the functions went, but the money didn't go. Did not follow, yes.
And that's a big concern.
And that's a big concern.
Clarify for me, when you say we now need to see each county government give its own scorecard, are you calling for state of the county sort of a situation where we see the president come out to issue State of the Nation address annually? Are you saying each county government needs to have perhaps what the locals gather, or in the county assembly? What kind of a scenario are you seeing, or would you propose?
The locals gather, the State of the Nation. You come, you give the locals. 2019, I received 7 billion. In 7 billion, we have been able to do one and show them, yeah? Visualize, let them see. In my county, in maybe Lukuyani, the road was done. This is the road. They can feel, yes, we have seen the road, we have seen the infrastructure of hospital, we have seen the infrastructure of ECDs, and not just an ECD, a classroom with, no, an ECD that we know when your children walk in, they're able to know this is where our foundation begins. So they must have a scorecard once for just each of their county to feel. And that way, now we are able to know why is it that County X is, even though it is there, you find a few counties, Makueni, I want to thank Waiguru. I mean, congratulations to her. You look at 1 year, she proves to us that indeed counties can work. But then there are many other counties that when you ask them, they will tell you, we haven't seen why the wage bill is so high. But even as you took the wage bill from the county councils, this is 6 years. You needed to have now thought of a better process, and those who need to retire, they need to have left. But if you have not done that up to now, you're still with the same team, And then there's a big challenge they are going to face.
I'll ask you this because you sat in the Senate once, and there's a situation that some would perhaps best describe as an absurdity that the president highlighted today, that 600 million shillings is being used to hold to account 800, I forget the word that he used.
800 million.
800 million.
Meaning you're looking for...
So 600 million, yeah.
200 million.
Oversight, yeah, 600 million oversighting 800 million.
Yeah. It happens.
Are we doing that really in the country?
Yes. By the time he was saying that, he had a report somewhere, and he has seen. And I'll tell you,
How
yes.
does that happen?
You know what we need to do, and I know maybe, but it's good to be honest, is that we also need to audit ourselves. You want a salary, what are you doing? You want a salary, you want pension. Is your job vis-a-vis your scorecard or your contract, is it in tandem? I mean, are you able to prove that I'm working for Kenyans for whatever hours, and I deserve to have the per diem, I deserve to... It's time we audit also. Let us audit both sides, the oversight side of the county government and the governor's side. And we tell ourselves, how many employees do you have in this? What do we do in a day? If we are asked, are we able to do 1, 2, 3? Show us. You show us your reports. You show us after your reports that you went for something. Has it changed? Let wananchi say. They came for oversight. Did we change anything? Or we just did oversight because we are supposed to do oversight? We did committees because we are supposed to do committees? It is something we need to question.
Okay.
And the last thing, we must have an attitude of respecting that the revenues we are collecting are for people, and especially for us who are in the political class and beyond, that Kenyans are struggling. Kenyans are sleeping hungry. They are paying taxes, and yet, fine, it is good to have your per diem and everything that we've put, but are we doing justice to that? Maybe that is why we are now into a crunch where God has just said, look, a country that finishes its people, I will expose you, expose your corruption, expose how you do things, and I will remove one by one. You'll feel ashamed. You'll feel ashamed to go to church. Your children will feel ashamed, and that is what all Kenyans are going to do. The next thing is to start following our children because they are benefiting while theirs are suffering.
In 30 seconds, our time is up. Corruption in the counties, how best can it be dealt with? What is it we are missing in being able to make sure this is also being strongly canvassed there?
Well, first of all, we just need to canvass it in 2 ways. Let the DPP pick, do a pilot, do one in Nairobi, pick the cities, do a pilot in it, and let's be serious about it. Unveil that. It will calm down in the other counties. But then when we are going to a referendum, we just need to think. And let us not shy away to say we need to reduce the numbers. Let's not shy away.
Of counties?
Of counties can remain 47. We can decide constituencies to have the smaller constituencies, 3 members, a youth, a woman, a man. And the 290 becomes the wards. It's as simple. And let's be serious with our country, because for now, the way we are headed, it's like we don't care what happens tomorrow, and it's going to kill us.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time. Honorable Beatrice Elachi saying tough decisions must be made for the sustainability of this country going forward. Linda.
Yeah, let's be serious with our countries. We have to make tough decisions. If devolution has to work, we have to make tough decisions for our children. We have to make tough decisions for the future. Beatrice Elachi, they are saying God is trying to expose all the illegal things that are happening in the counties. You're watching The Big Story. Thank you for staying with us. Let me now bring in Professor Alfred Omenya, who's a governance expert. Sir, thank you so much for joining us and indeed for being part of The Big Story. So let me get initially your scorecard of devolution. 6 years down the line, give me your scorecard.
Yes, I think I would mark devolution at about 38%.
You'd mark it at 38. Why 38?
I think I would have given a higher score, but I'm marking against the potential of devolution. Definitely, devolution is the best thing that has happened in this country in our lifetime. But having said that, the potential of devolution is nowhere from being realized. What it can do, the services it can offer the citizen, the growth it can bring to our economy, the good governance that can be possible through the grassroots engagements, that has not been achieved at all. But on the other hand, we're seeing hospitals, and we're seeing tarmac roads, and we're seeing local agriculture in places that we did not see before. We are seeing plans for towns and plans for rural areas. We are seeing revenues being generated and being used at local level. Yeah, so I mark it at 38 vis-a-vis potential. I don't think it actually meets the University of Nairobi pass grade of 40, but it's about there.
It should not get to 40, it will be 38. All right. So I do not want to look at the things or aspects that are working in devolution. I want us to look at the aspects that are not working so that we can look for a way forward of sorting it out. So the first issue that comes to mind is the issue of corruption. We've had lots of cases with governors and some of the officials being accused of malpractices in their counties. And there are those who say by embracing devolution, we basically devolved corruption. How then do we get out of this?
Yes, I mean, corruption is a major concern in the devolved units. In fact, I think it is one of the bigger evils of devolution. I don't believe that, I didn't believe that, people could actually, do so much evil to their relatives, to their mothers, to their sisters, to the brothers and sisters who are meant to be getting services. And yes, I mean, we've heard of cases of corruption in all the devolved units. But Linda, I think we need to look at it. Part of the challenges that we have, the core challenge we have is a governance challenge. And who's meant to oversight the devolved units to ensure there's no corruption? We've created county assemblies, and county assemblies are stocked with people who are earning salaries, who are meant to oversight the governors. But they're not doing their work at all. They're getting salaries from Kenyans through false pretenses. They're the ones who are meant to be oversighting the budgets and asking tough questions about all these companies that are being created by relatives of those who are in power, to steal from Kenyans. That bit is zero. And then we're also meant to have very strong oversight from the citizens through citizens' participation. That is entrenched in the Constitution, that is entrenched in County Government Act, that is entrenched in Public Finance Management Act, and so many other acts that govern the counties. How many counties in Kenya actually have effective public participation, including citizens' oversight of government expenditure? We would only highlight a few. I think, again, Makueni comes to mind in terms of counties that have put, some of these structures in place, and we can see the difference, the benefits. But for many counties, all we are seeing is looting, actually, of taxpayers' money, with absolutely no oversight from the citizenry, but also no oversight from county assemblies. We are meant to be having senators who are also meant to be playing an oversight role, an important oversight role at national level. What work are they doing? They're just earning salaries again, and we're not seeing any effective fight against corruption within those particular devolved units. Now we have to rely on the anti-corruption and DPP's office. Granted, but these cannot stop corruption. These only deal with the culprits once corruption has happened. But having said that, even those particular structures have not been able to deliver much. We are seeing governors accused of corruption going back to their counties and continuing to steal the same money and continuing to block evidence that could lead to their prosecution. Yeah, so definitely we are not doing the right thing as far as corruption in the devolved units is concerned.
It's concerned the county assemblies, the citizens and the senators have all failed.
Yes, totally.
Okay. Interesting that you mentioned Makueni, because the Makueni governor has been in the headlines for all the good reasons. So basically, the people who would sit at home and say, probably we're not given an avenue as citizens to be part of this process. And the reason I'm glad we're actually having this conversation is because we need to let Kenyans know that they have the right to be part of this conversation to decide how the money in their counties will be used.
Exactly. In fact, Public Finance Management Act requires that citizens take part in every single aspect of county planning, that is the CIDP, the annual development plans, but also take part in development of the budget through the Budget and Economic Forum, and then follow this through the county assemblies. And after that, citizens are expected to oversight again, the way the budget is being implemented. Of course, it is incumbent upon the county governments themselves to facilitate this sort of oversight. And that's partly why Makueni is being highlighted. I think Kisumu had started a similar process of organizing the citizens and creating citizen participation so that citizens can effectively take part in oversighting the governments. Yes, we've had cases where citizens have taken government to court, like in the case of Kilifi, and the governor has since then, involved the citizens in governance. Having said that, not many other counties are doing the same, and therefore losing an excellent opportunity of advancing good governance, but at the same time of involving the citizens, in expenditure. Yeah, so definitely that is one of the weakest areas of the devolved units.
Okay, so in terms of corruption, county assemblies have failed to oversight the counties. We have citizens who have also failed. So if your county is not working, remember you have the right, it is your right actually, to decide how funds in your county will be used. But the county governments need to facilitate citizens to be part of this conversation. You also have senators who are not playing their part as well in all this. So corruption has three aspects that are not working. You're watching the big story. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about recurrent expenditure that even the president alluded to. We're looking at the issues or the reasons why devolution seems not to be working in the Republic of Kenya. We're taking that break now.